I was a writer for the New York Times. I worked with the Wall Street Journal for 16 years. And I asked myself at that point, what is the greatest path to my professional development? And it was definitely leaving this great job to actually do something that didn't exist. I'm Kevin Dilane, and I'm the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Quartz, which is a business news site, and we aim to be a guide for business professionals to the new global economy. This was 2012, and at that time about 15% of readers to US news sites were coming via mobile phones. But we said we want to actually serve those readers because that's where all the growth is. Journalists from The Economist and the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg and places like that. And our salespeople came from The Atlantic and the BBC and other places. But everyone thought that media was kind of broken, and we had an opportunity to try and do it the right way. So in the very beginning we had zero. We had zero readers, and that was very daunting to imagine how we would grow from there. We didn't take standard advertising. We didn't have a homepage. We designed for mobile before we designed for desktop, and the format of the content was very unconventional. We aim to do things that are short and things that are long. We call it the Quartz curve. The other way in which we reach out to readers is that we distribute our news on social channels. So via Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. So the news finds you where you are on those social channels. You don't have to only come to our qz.com site to read it. So some people weren't convinced by our approach. So you're right, there were some skeptics. And there were skeptics on two levels. One, does the world need another business news site? And on the second level, should it be this site that is very unconventional? So it was a risk to do this at the time, but it's been the key to our success. Today we have over 20 million readers each month to our website. We have close to 1 million people who have downloaded our apps for mobile. And we have about 500,000 people who subscribe to our email newsletters, actually over 500,000 people. We're actually very proud of the fact that we try things that don't actually work out. And so there are two examples that I can give you. One is a site which we called Glass, and it was about the future of television and entertainment and video. And so we created this special site with a really special format. But we saw that while we were attracting a small number of very dedicated readers, it was really hard to actually get big readership. And so we actually closed that. We stopped doing Glass. So that was one thing. The second thing is that we started a podcast over 2 years ago and did several seasons of this podcast. And it was okay, but it never was super popular. And so we decided to stop doing that. We actually try to celebrate. We acknowledge when things don't work, and we try and make sure people don't feel bad about it. Because if you make people feel bad, then they're never going to try things that are experimental, that involve taking some risk. And so we'll keep experimenting, even though we know that some of the experiments are failures. If you don't do that, you're too conservative, you don't take risks, and you never actually have the breakthroughs to create new products. When I was working in Paris for the Wall Street Journal, there was a moment where I was trying and my articles weren't very successful, and I was struggling. I had a new boss and we didn't understand each other. And I went to him one day and we had lunch, and he said, "So what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, one day I really would like to have a job like your job." And he said, "You're not going to do it. If this is how you're working, it's going to be really hard for you to rise and be the editor of a bunch of people." And that was really, really hard to hear. But it also was very motivating, and I was able to talk to him about what I needed to change to be successful. So when I was starting Quartz, the question I asked myself when I was deciding to leave the Wall Street Journal was, what is the greatest path to my professional development? And it was definitely leaving this great job to actually do something that didn't exist. And the way that you actually develop faster as a person is when you push yourself, when you challenge yourself, when you do things that are actually kind of risky and scary. But you come out at the other side so much farther along in terms of your skills, in terms of your experience, in terms of your knowledge.